Hello, good afternoon and welcome to the Asia Talent Cup in 2020. It's round one and we're here in Qatar. It's Sunday and race day number 2 on the road to MotoGP. Yesterday, race season got off to a spectacular start as Kanta Hamada and rookie Taiyo Furusato battled all race long and right until the wire, split by just 0.03 of a second at the checkered flag. Race winner from the 2019 season, Siarifudin Asman, got his 2020 season off to an admirable start with a 3rd place, and the rest of the field battling out for whatever points they could. You saw number 18 Harrison Voigt go down on the opening lap, but he picked himself back up to finish 12th place. Valuable points indeed, for this is a long championship. What drama awaits us today? Settle down, buckle up and get ready to grip the edge of the sofa because the road to MotoGP starts right here. Let's go racing!
And now, ladies and gentlemen, your respect please for the race winners' national anthem, the national anthem of Japan.
Good morning. Blimey, doesn't those drums get your heart beating very, very early?
They do,
also,
but it's not the morning.
Yeah, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Matt Dunn here with Fran Wild alongside me as ever to bring you the Asia Talent Cup action. They are right beneath our commentary box on the grid, as you can see there, ready to go for their 2nd race of the decade, the season, the round, if you like. But it's also the first race that we have here today for race day Sunday at Losail International Circuit. Fran, how are you feeling about this one? Ultra excited for this, for what precedes it as well?
Yes, absolutely. Yesterday's race was an absolute cracker. If you've not seen that, please make sure to catch up with it. It was a real classic. As we've seen a few great races here in the desert from the Asia Talent Cup, guys. A few different ones, duels, group battles. But yeah, it should be another great one today. We'll have to see if anyone can keep up with the 2 men that fought it out. One of whom was this man, Taiyo Furusato, rookie, pole position, fastest in testing. We won't spoil exactly what happened yesterday, but certainly he was one of the standout performers, and it was really, really great to see.
I think we are going to have to spoil it a little bit as we talk about it into the race, but yes, do make sure you go and catch up.
I was thinking at this point, giving people a chance to just check it out.
If you haven't watched it, stop this immediately. Go back and watch yesterday's race because it really was awesome. 0.032 separated 2 of the competitors at the line. This man, though, will be looking to, well, this young fellow will be hoping to make amends after yesterday's mistake.
It's a bit rich coming from you.
I'm 26 years old next Sunday, thank you very much. Harrison Voigt there, 13 years old, I should say, the Australian, has been seriously fast in testing, but a mistake on lap 1 put him out of contention sadly, but did bring those valuable points back.
Yes, it did. We've got a little bit of a smaller grid here in Qatar, and he was able to, I was going to say provocate, but that's a bit of a Spanglishism there to start the day. He was able to make good use of that and make it work for him by getting back on and able to bring home a few points, which could prove very valuable come the end of the season. But yeah, the Australian, that also means we've not really seen what he might have in his pocket over race distance. So it could be pretty interesting, and he could be one to watch today. But definitely this guy as well yesterday was part of a great show fighting for the top 5, and as you can see, he's pretty ready to go racing, I think, again today.
Some very smiley Japanese riders on the grid this year, not too many intense looks on the grid, so smiley, happy to be racing, ready to go. And a little bit of information actually that I found out yesterday, speaking to our esteemed colleague Akira Nishimura. We were talking actually during the race round about Kanta Hamada and Taiyo Furusato, where some of these riders learn their craft before they even get into the Asia Talent Cup. Well, according to him, these riders have been taught by none other than Tadayuki Okada and Yuki Takahashi at the Suzuka Circuit Racing School beforehand. They're 2 graduates there, and actually during the pre-season test of the Asia Talent Cup, which preceded the MotoGP Sepang test, Taddy was over there keeping an eye on his boys, and he told the Japanese journalist that these are 2 kids that he really picks for the future. Like we suggested yesterday, could be a season-long battle for the title just between them 2.
Yeah, most definitely. And Furusato certainly was quick out the blocks in his ATC rookie campaign. Really good stuff from him. Kanta Hamada, a little bit more experience in this class, but nevertheless super impressive. Gunmie, another really impressive rookie who I think was 4th yesterday, was he not? He won that rather elbows-out battle to the line against Shoki Igarashi to decide who was going to complete the top 5, and it was really good stuff.
He was absolutely off like a shot off the line when the race started yesterday.
That was actually more true of the man on pole,
yes,
Taiyo Furusato, who absolutely just, it's very rare you see a start that perfect in racing, really.
Yeah, he clearly rarely skips leg day with that sort of push.
It was so perfect as well that the rest of the grid behind him, who were already about 10 metres back, just made it really almost embarrassing for themselves, because he just got it so perfect. And that distance was really, really visible to the naked eye straight away. But, you know, the likes of Hamada did manage to catch him back, so that was good, and we got a great duel and a great race out of it.
Shahril Sharil on your screens there. He is lining up 7th on the grid, which is one place further down than where he finished yesterday's race, which was in 6th place. So a good showing from him. And Fran, although we saw a real runaway victory from two of the guys on the podium, and then poor Asman in amongst him, well, just sort of riding around alone for a little while. The battle behind them was seriously intense. Most of them split by less than a second.
Yeah, there was a really huge group from, I think, 6th down to 11th, was it not? And there was literally, I think, 1.1 seconds between all of that group, and it wasn't decided until right over the line in that final corner. So classic ATC racing, and it's good for all of those guys as well. I'm sure they'll learn a lot from each other and battling each other. When you do have a lot of guys who have similar pace, it's those tiny little things that will make that difference, and there's plenty to learn, which after all is one of the key goals that they have being in the Asia Talent Cup. It's not just about winning, it's also about learning, progressing, and moving forward as a rider.
Yep, and should they do that well enough, they too could find themselves riding for the junior talent team in the Moto3 Junior World Championship over in Europe in Spain. That is the ultimate goal for all these riders lining up on the grid, to make their way into that team and then potentially into the senior, as it were, World Championship, even though some of those guys are just literally 16 years old.
They don't call it the Road to MotoGP for nothing.
Absolutely not. There is Masaya Hongo, one of the many Japanese riders we have on the grid here, ready to go. Well, commencing countdown, engines on, absolutely, definitely. Riders getting ready to head out on their warm-up lap now, I should say. And then racing for 2020 on a race day. The Grand Prix race day will finally commence.
It will, indeed. It will, and I'm very excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
It was a classic yesterday. I do love a duel.
Yeah.
There's something to be said for incredible runaway wins with one person, duels, group fights. I love them all in different ways, but I do love just watching a bit of a game of high-speed chess unfold as it did yesterday.
And especially with the lack of experience that these two had as well. They were pulling moves which you would expect on a last lap, but with 7 or 8 laps to go still.
Yeah,
and,
it got quite spicy quite early.
Quite, and it'll be interesting to see what the rider coaches would have told them overnight about their racecraft and whether we see more of that behaviour again. The other questions that remain as well, will the other riders who were over a second off their pace be actually up to speed with them today? They've not had a warm-up session like Moto3 and Moto2 have done. The last time they were on circuit was yesterday's race. It
was, and obviously a little bit of a different time of day as well. But I think Harrison Voigt is one that interests me, certainly, having been the closest to Furusate's pace in qualifying, and we obviously didn't get to see him in a normal race in race 1 after having made that mistake, and who knows what the consequences of that crash were, so you can't always tell what his pace would have been had that incident not happened. So he'll be one to watch, but I think Furusato and Hamada, they were the only guys in the 211s in that race yesterday. Furusato is the only man in the 211s on the grid. His qualifying time almost 8/10ths clear of Harrison Voigt in second, so I think you would be hard pressed to find a reason to bet against them two being the key characters in this race again today, but I think it'll be another great battle regardless.
Yes, I think so too. And whilst we're talking about lap times and lap records and whatnot, still shout out to a classic Nakarin Atarat Puvapap. 2015 is the all-time lap record set in the ATC here, which is the 2:10.6. Nakarin, if you're listening, if you're watching out there, hope you're well. Been riding around in the Thai Superbike Championship last year, and he did, of course, make an appearance in the Thai Grand Prix as well. So, could these be one of the Moto3 stars of the future? Quite possibly. This is where it all starts, the road to MotoGP. Around about 2/3 of the way around the warm-up lap now. That was turn 11, coming towards turns 12, 13 and 14. A triple right-hander, which at these speeds with these kinds of Moto3 bikes, they do manage to straighten up the machines just a little bit before tipping it in. It's not a solid knee-down apex, triple apex going around, but now they're starting to set up for the penultimate and final corner. Then, of course, that run to the line.
Yeah, they are, and this onboard shot is a real, it's great. I love this. Especially,
is the word you're about to use?
Kind of. I don't really know where I was going. But yeah, looking back at the guys chasing whoever it is you're on board with, it's a great shot, especially down the straight as well. You can really see the slipstream as the bike behind just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and then pulls over to one side or the other. But obviously not quite at racing speed with that shot now on the warm-up lap. I'm sure this will not be threatening Nakarin's lap record. But nevertheless, they're great shots to see.
There he is then. Number 15, Taiyo Furusato, the rookie sensation in the Asia Talent Cup this year. Fastest in testing, fastest in free practice, fastest in qualifying, pole position. Just missed out on the win yesterday, though, to the more experienced Kanta Hamada. Both growing up, racing alongside each other at the Suzuka Circuit Racing School. Now they're going to do it on the big stage as well at the Losail International Circuit. 14 laps of Asia Talent Cup madness await us right here in Qatar. The man with the red flag at the start of the grid heads off, and then the red lights will come on, revs will go up, nerves will start to peak, adrenaline pumping through their veins, and the lights go out now, and off they go. Another superb start from Furusato there. That strong left leg taking him off well and truly out front of these guys. Keep an eye on the yellow helmet of the number 8. That was yesterday's race winner, Hamada, but it's Voigt who is in second place. But will Hamada go round the outside like he did yesterday? Not quite this time, so Voigt has learned something at least. He just needs to make it past turn 6 and turn 10. Although Hamada round the outside now at turn 2. Excellent stuff on the chase down now of Furusato. You cannot let him get away. You can't get involved in all sorts of melees round there, because he will take off and clear off, and good night and goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. You can see a bit of a wobble there for Hamada, obviously pushing pretty hard to get back onto the tail of Furusato in the early stages, which is, like you said, exactly where he needs to be. You do not need to give the guy any space to be able to start putting in his own laps and get yourself caught up in traffic, so to speak, although I don't like that term for guys who are almost as fast and certainly trying just as hard. But yeah, so Hamada in the position he wants to be in now. But Harrison Voigt then so far doing a bit of a better job than yesterday after that early disaster for him. And yeah, good start for him, because he really bogged down off the line yesterday. So race 2 off to a much more solid start.
Touching wood, touching my head. He's made it through turn 6, which is the problem area for him yesterday. And these two at the front have not quite cleared off just yet. You've got Furusato out front from Hamada, then from Asman and Voigt in positions 3 and 4. I couldn't quite see who was just behind them. Voigt 18, Asman 13. I couldn't quite see the
still
camera
couldn't see it either.
but they are still well in contention.
I think
but
it
these
might be
laps,
Mie.
could well be then, yes.
I think,
the
according to the timing screens,
Mie.
yeah, possibly.
Perfect then.
Apologies if we're not saying that quite correctly.
There he is.
It is, yes, okay. I thought it was a single digit, but then the 8 is already in second, so there we go.
Yeah, we managed to spot him, such as the commentators' issues when you're looking at all these bikes that are the same colour and quite often fairly similar helmet designs as well.
Yep, exactly.
Yes, but anyways, they are coming on to the start and finish straight for the first time, and the top 2 are well within slipstreaming effect zone for the from the front runners. So it doesn't look like they're going to be able to get away just yet, as we clock down to 13 laps to go. Voigt pulls out to the inside. Is he going to make a daring move up the inside? We saw how strong Furusato was on the brakes. He continues that today. Nobody able to go up his inside this time around, but how close are they going to be through turn 2? We saw how good Hamada was there last time around.
We did, yeah. So it looked like Voigt was a bit tempted to try and make a move there. Probably also very, very conscious of the likely pace of the guys ahead of him, but nothing too much so far to be seen in this fight at the front. All nice and calm early doors, but yeah, that slipstream certainly is helpful. If those guys can stay in range of that, that will help them to just stay tagged onto the back of the 2 who were, you know, just that little margin quicker yesterday.
Young Harrison's got a bit of a twitchy front wheel, hasn't he? I'm keeping my fingers crossed for him that he has a good race, that's for sure.
I feel like that's a riskier comment to make than
hopefully it has the opposite effect, and no commentators cursing, keeps it upright. So we have a leading quintet. Oh, there's someone who's gone off way wide out there, but they've managed to stay on. Got to be careful because it's ultra dusty when you go off the circuit, and these slick tyres, well, they're not sand tyres, so they don't really pull up very well when that's sort of dirt out there.
No, there is dune buggy racing in Qatar, but not quite here at Losail International Circuit, at least not on the not on the grey bits.
Maybe just outside. But
yeah, so I think, I'm not sure who went wide in the background. I think it was a 20 or a 22. So it could be Shariel or Hongo that just got that wrong there. We'll have to see if they've slotted back in.
Something we've not mentioned so far this race, Fran, for our Turkish fans watching, in Sadiji is actually competing today. So there are 13 riders on the grid. He missed out yesterday due to a sprained ankle, I believe it was.
Sprained ankle or foot. Yeah, it was from a crash that he had, and just not quite feeling up to it yesterday for race 1. So yeah, good to see him able to compete today. If nothing else, just for the track time and the extra experience around this Losail International Circuit.
Well, it's a leading quintet, which is very good news for our viewers at home. Not such good news for the guys who were hoping to have a relatively quiet race, as battling one another. Furusato and Hamada, they have well and truly got a lot of company right behind them. We saw earlier on Harrison Voigt taking a quick look behind him to check who's there. He's probably still happy that he's still in contention here at the moment, and he's pulling out the slipstream, pulling towards the side of the track, but so is Mie as well. Is anybody going to make a move up the inside? Who's going to blink first? Furusato, he's so late on the brakes, and Mie as well. Great stuff from him up the inside of Voigt there. Superb.
Yeah, that got him a little bit close there, didn't it? I'm sure the camera angle doesn't really help, and there's a little bit more space.
Voigt battling back.
Yeah, you need to be careful now. These guys do not want to give free time to the guys ahead of them. But yeah, you can see that slipstream effect. They get really, really close. I'm sure if this were the final lap of the race, that at least Mie and Voigt would have been able to really whack one up the inside there and try and make it stick.
He has gone up the inside this time. Voigt again. So yeah, they got to be careful. But Mie, the fastest lap last time around, these guys have clearly learned quite a lot, because these low 212s is the same sort of pace that the front runners Hamada and Furusato were running yesterday. So what we said during yesterday's race about these guys learning for race 2, they've clearly managed to kick it up a gear.
Yep, so far so good in this race for those guys who just got dropped off yesterday. And yeah, it is a great 5-way fight at the moment, but like we said, they do need to be a little bit careful. So I have no doubt that Furusato and Hamada are probably still the 2 favourites to be really fighting this out at the end of the race. But at the moment as well,
looking at Asman.
I thought that might be a little bit of a dive bomb there, but no harm done. But yeah, the guys at the front look really, really solid still, and haven't been that bothered by the guys just behind them. So they will just need to be conscious that they're playing a sensible game. They know they don't need to lose time at this stage, so those on the chase need to do the same. But there's another 3-way fight here then.
Wakamatsu getting someone up his inside there almost. He's the one in the middle of the pack there. That's number 12 as well, Max Gibbons, the Australian. Number 12 out front there, and just behind them as well, you've got Igarashi, the number 14. And Igarashi will move up the inside, perhaps not quite this time though.
Not quite this time. I'm a little surprised to see Igarashi down there. He did complete the top 5 yesterday, and he's the man who, of the returning riders, had the best results in Qatar last year. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe able to fight these guys off and then start making a little bit of progress forward as the race goes on.
That is the universal sign for follow me, but I accept that you're probably not going to.
Exactly, the Moto3 special.
Well, look at that. Asman's the man on the move. He was the fastest rider that time of the round. Fastest lap of the race, a 2:12.016. So very good pace here. But we did see the pace drop off fairly significantly towards the end of the race, dropping into the 2:13s. So it'll be interesting to see how that one pans out, whether that was due to tyre wear or tiredness or whatever it was yesterday, or maybe just because the groups settled into fairly, well, distinct parties, and everyone just were able to slow down the pace and just try and battle it out for accepting the positions that they were probably going to get.
Absolutely, yes. So Asman yesterday, yeah, he had fairly similar pace, didn't he, in the latter part of the race, certainly those last few laps. But the number 15, number 8 were those superstar 2:11 runners in the middle, and really managed to make that work for them and pull away to make it a 2-man fight.
Unfortunately, Sadiji has entered the pitch. I'm guessing that was riding a bit too much pain there is the Turk, so that's a shame for him.
Yeah, a bit of a shame to see that, but you know, hopefully now he'll be able to get back to fully fit. Now there's a little bit of a break with obviously the Asia Talent Cup calendar having the same change as the MotoGP calendar at the moment, and Buriram pushed back to later in the year. But this group at the front then, I'm quite impressed at the way they've managed to stay with them so far.
Me too. Very, very impressed. It's a big ask to basically improve your lap time by a second, given that you've had no actual time on track between yesterday's race and today as well. That's That's very, very impressive from these guys.
It very much is. You can see Asman there a little bit wide, I think, in the background, just a little touch on the green stuff there. But Voigt certainly is absolutely part of a lead trio now. There's a little bit more daylight between Mir and Asman just behind them. But I'm fairly sure that the slipstream, especially with 3 bikes punching a hole in the air ahead of them, will mean that this will be a 5-rider fight once again into turn 1.
Judging by Asman's moves up the inside there, you wonder whether he's thinking that Mir is slowing him up. He's getting a bit concerned about how the guys ahead of them are seemingly getting away. But look at the massive punch that there will be in the air for both of them, allowed to be slipstreaming through as they almost touch handlebars and elbows down the home straight. Voigt going all over the place. Where's he going to go? Inside, outside. He's chosen inside, but still no chance of going up the inside of Furusato. As you rightly point out, Fran, 2.11s there are across the board from those guys. All the top 5 set 2.11s. They are setting a pace above the rest. Conditions clearly optimal.
Yeah, absolutely. I was amazed then when not just 1 or 2 of them, but 5 2.11s in a row from that front group. Really impressive stuff. The fastest one was Voigt, as came up on your screen. But here's a bit of a replay then.
Wow.
I love the slow-mo as everyone pops up.
Yeah, and you can see pretty much who decides on the braking markers as well, although the real telltale sign is who grabs the front brake with their right hand first, because just because they're sitting up, as I know from a couple of senior Moto3 riders, doesn't mean they're necessarily braking. That's a little bit of mind games going on.
I know who you're talking about there, and it's an interesting party to watch, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. So it was Furusato still maintaining the lead, and it's something else I'm surprised about, Fran. Breaking down into turn 1, Furusato has been so strong all of yesterday and still today. Nobody dares try and match his braking marker though, do they?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. He does seem certainly the strongest of these 5 in the entry into turn 1, although Hamada seems to be able to get around the apex a little bit quicker, carry a little bit more speed. But obviously that's not so useful if you've got a bike in front of you in the way, much like the old inline 4 versus V4 argument. You know, you get swings and roundabouts in these situations. But I'm sure that later in the race, a few of them would have been able to make that move and attack him by now, if nothing else, because, you know, the time is then, isn't it, when you're on the final lap. But yeah, so far he's still just so solid there, and it is a bit of a problem. But I'm sure he's also learnt a lot from yesterday in the final corner and losing out there.
Yep.
So he'll be an interesting one to watch, I think, on the final lap with Furusato, because at the moment it's as you were from yesterday, and his tactics are identical, which are just lead the way.
Well, without being too much of a Sherlock Holmes and stating the absolute obvious, obviously the race finishes before the first corner, so at least his supreme braking prowess won't have a real impact on who takes the victory of the race. But this sort of antics will. Who will get the slipstream? Well, it's Hamada that time who crosses the finish line first, but this will be fascinating because will Furusato pull out and go up the inside again? Not quite this time. He decides to stick behind him. Interesting, because we've not seen that before. Every other time yesterday, well, Hamada pulled out of the slipstream in front of Furusato. He went straight back into turn 1.
Yeah, he did indeed. But I'm sure now they're very aware that it's a 5-rider fight, and it's still a 5-rider fight. It's not like they've had a real little duel at the front and allowed anyone to catch them. Those guys are there purely on merit and having the same pace as the 2 who dueled it out yesterday. So it's impressive stuff. But yeah, it is pretty interesting, isn't it? And Hamada, of course, yesterday as well was pretty reticent in getting past Furusato when he did seem to have the opportunity to do so on that main straight, but today strikes quite early.
Oh, and Mie up the inside of Harrison Voigt. He was nearly losing the front end there. Got to be very careful, Fran. I was about to give you a certificate because whatever word you used back there, that's got to be the first time that's been used on a Asia Talent Cup broadcast, that's for sure.
Oh, I don't reticent?
Yes, that one.
Okay.
As we turn back to the action, Hamada still maintains the lead. Voigt still fairly secure in that 3rd place. Now we're coming up to turn 10. Last time around, Voigt just seemed to make a bit of a mistake as Furusato goes up the inside, but for how long? Hamada might have the jump in him on the drive. He's in the slipstream, full gas through turn 11. And Voigt didn't make much of a mistake that time around because he's maintained that gap to the 2 leaders.
Yeah, he has. So already then a bit of spice. Yesterday it was 6 to go or 5 to go when they really started dicing each other a bit more. But today already a little bit more action in this front group. And now it's the lead 2 who were getting into it a bit more. Whereas earlier we were a little bit worried that those 3 just on their tail were going to lose themselves a bit of time. But no, absolutely not so far. But it's Furusato then back in the driving seat, so to speak. And he does seem very comfortable there in the lead of the race. Certainly for a rookie, it's impressive holding of his nerve.
He absolutely loves it, doesn't he? And you love to see it. A rider very comfortable out front, and I've got to say, as exhilarating as yesterday's race was with this epic duel between the 2 men on your screen right now, Furusato and Hamada, It's great having a race with 5 of them as we see the 3 of them just pull out the slipstream behind them. That was a fantastic on-board shot. Looking back from Misato, who's going up the inside. It looks like Mie trying to punt back. Voigt, he's the loser in that situation. He's been bumped back to 5th, and now it's finding Asman in 3rd place. But for how long? Mie looking up the inside again, not quite close enough this time.
That was a great shot, wasn't it? That's why I love that onboard camera. It's just great. You can see them all shuffling, and as the braking zone comes in, they'll suddenly get a bit bigger as that concertina effect as well. But yeah, Furusato then once again able to keep the lead of this race, and those 3 getting a little bit dicey just behind. But yeah, it was Voigt that really lost out there, shuffled back to 5th now when he's traditionally been the man fighting these 2 at the front. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Mie certainly seems pretty eager to make a few moves as well. And he, of course, was the rookie who came out on top in the duel to the line yesterday against Igarashi. So certainly got some last lap chops, but it's still quite early. We've got 8 to go.
You know, we're only halfway or so through the race, and I'm absolutely exhausted already. Water is running low because we're talking and raising our voices so much from the excitement on our screens. It's fairly standard behaviour from the Asia Talent Cup, to be quite honest with you. It'll be shame to have a bigger break than we were expecting, to be honest. Voigt up the inside, but not quite. They've got to be so careful charging up the inside there, because turn 10, although it is banked and you can really throw it in there, it's all too easy to lose the front end.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Voigt is an interesting one as well, because obviously he really cannot afford to give away a big chunk of points again. Like we said, it was a good recovery ride yesterday, got a few points in his pocket and managed to get back on, and didn't waste too much time getting too angry at himself. Just straight back on the bike. Okay, head down. Right, now we've got to try and make the most of it. But certainly if he wants to challenge for the Asia Talent Cup title this season, you need to try and be consistent, and certainly 5th is much better than throwing it down the road.
Completely agree.
Sure, he won't settle for 5th in any way. None of them will. That's why we love them.
Yeah,
but still, you do need to balance these things out at times, and certainly with now, as it will be 7 laps to go in a minute, you don't want to be making too many crazy moves this early.
Look at this. In terms of crazy moves, Asman's pulled up from the slipstream. He wants that lead, and look at, Hamada cuts across him there, nearly wipes his front wheel away. Who's going to break latest into turn 1 from Misato at the inside of Asman? Not quite. He chops his nose off. And coming out of that one into turn 2, it's Hamada that leads again. That was, wow, pretty much too close to call, to be honest with you, but they're all safely through still, this top 5. It's very fast, close, but clean racing that we've got here today.
Yeah, definitely. Very clean so far. You can see every time I get stressed, I seem to do a weird lasso thing with these new handheld mics that we have, because it's too much to take. But Furusato then looking again like he wants to attack back, but Hamada was super solid there, no fear, back in the lead of the race, and we still got 2 11s for this group. It was only Voigt then that just missed out on it that time around.
They did dip out of the 2 11s for a couple of laps there, but now back into them, which is fascinating. Maybe, I do think perhaps yesterday the pace has slowed a little bit, not through conditions or deteriorating tyres, but through just, we're in our own battles, and that's all we have to focus on right now. Whereas this, you've got to be as fast as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure, well, I don't know, I was going to say that, but now I'm going to take it back. I was going to say, I'm sure that Furusato and Hamada are aware they've probably got a little bit more in their pocket, maybe, a little bit more longevity, a little bit more experience of this kind of pace over the number of laps that they've done. But I'm very impressed with these guys who, like we said, took such a big step forward from yesterday. And Asman, especially last time around, was really up on his best pace yesterday.
And it's not just these top 5 that we're looking at who have got a pretty big race on, because behind them the gaps are fairly short as well. There's a small gap, it's Gibbons, Igarashi and Wakamatsu who is still running around as a trio. Behind them you've got Sharil, who's 4 seconds back, who's in his own group with Thompson, Salee and Hongo as well.
Yeah, they're all very, very close again, those guys. It looks like they're going to have a...
On the inside it goes for Asada, but not quite. That is an interesting one, because we don't see those sorts of moves at the final turn in the Asia Talent Cup, because it's all about this run to the line.
Exactly, yeah. So apologies if I just broke anyone's headphones there, if you're listening on them. But yeah, that was a pretty interesting attempt, wasn't it? But Furusato then now, he does make it stick, and he's back in the lead of this race, and Hamada looks like he'll hang on for a second. Again, can see such a difference in their riding styles. It's really great to see.
And line choice as well, particularly on the start and finish straight there for Rosati, trying to keep out of harm's way, keeping well out of the slipstreaming zone there. He knew he wouldn't be too far behind, that he couldn't outbrake them all, so he did. He maintains that first position. Turns 4 and 5 are kind of tricky ones here because it's a bit of a double apex. And for Rosati, he is just so strong on the brakes. It's just, but then Hamada, by contrast, is so good on the exit of corners and maintaining that corner speed. Just a beautiful difference in riding styles between the two of them. Both so different, but maintaining such a similar pace.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's like we saw yesterday in qualifying in Moto2, Marini and Roberts, exactly the same lap time, which just seems crazy from two completely different riders. But it is amazing, and it's great to see when you've got such a great example of it. These two guys, yeah, it's like they're doing a different task, really, isn't it? Everything's different. Body language, position on the bike, the way they're attacking everything. But yeah, lap times within hundredths.
But the result pretty much the same. 6 laps, well, 5.5 laps to go more like here, and Asman maintaining that third position. So this, apart from the two fellows who have joined the group, this is the running order pretty much of yesterday's race throughout until they reached the checkered flag. Just absolute props to the likes of Voigt and Mie, who have managed to up their pace significantly, as well as Asman, mind you, to cling on to the back of your leaders.
Yeah, definitely. You can see there's a little bit more of a gap than we've seen over the last few laps now between Asman and Voigt, as it is now in 4th. But I'm fairly confident that will disappear again once we get another slipstream. Like we said, when there's 3 guys ahead of you, that's a much bigger hole in the air that's going to get punched for you to be able to profit from it.
Yeah, quite right. It's one thing to have one rider in front of you to get the slipstream on. It's another to have 4 in front of you as well. And look at the difference in
fanning out across the track as well.
Right, absolutely. Well, here is that slipstream effect in full view of the cameras. Hamada pulling out and going past for Rosato, but for how long? And Izzy Asman closing in indefinitely as well. Oh, very, very close indeed as Hamada cuts across for Rosato as they go over the line. There's Asman taking the inside. He's up the inside of Rosato, but Mie going even further inside, up the inside of Voigt as well, and they are all together again. No more gaps this time around, so they can be confident that if the two at the back of this group lose a bit of time around the lap, they can make it up on the start and finish straight.
Yeah, most definitely. And you can see there as well, Hamada was ahead before the start finish line, just as we saw him do a few times before crunch time yesterday. And I'm sure Furusato will try and bear that in mind again at the end of this race.
It's the furthest back we've seen Furusato, back into 3rd place there, sitting quite comfortably.
Genuinely is
on
all
Asman.
Season.
Yeah, absolutely. All decade, even.
Oh, wow.
How often can you say that about a 14-year-old? Or is he 13 for Furusato? He is 14, yes, yeah. Of course. Hamada's 15 years old. So let's get a look at, what is this, going into turn 1, is it?
I think it's the great turn 1 shuffle.
Oh, and as he takes a look behind him.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'd be doing that there if I was...
It's not something I understand all that much, to be honest. If you know you're in a group of 5 and you were a few seconds ago, chances are it's not changed that much.
Unless you wipe someone out, of course. Last time around, they were all
optimism.
Yeah, absolutely. Last time around, they were all in the 2.11s. Once again, the fastest man, though, was Voigt, actually, that time around. 2.11.726. So, he is definitely, I would say, they're all men on the move, really, to be honest with you. They're all in the top 5. That was going to be completely void comment there. But Voigt at the moment, just at the back of this group. Hamada leading the way from Asman.
Yeah, he is indeed, and it's now Igarashi in the lead of that battle that he's having against Max Gibbons for 6th. Rei Wakamatsu's just dropped off them a little bit, now in a solid 8th, but that battle just behind is still 4 guys strong, and all still
raging for that top 9. They want that top 10 finish, don't they? For Rosato on the inside again of Asman as they come onto the start and finish straight another time as they come across the finish line. This time around, it will be 4 laps to go, and that was an interesting move from Rosato, but will he make it across the line with them? We're lacking that drive by cutting up the inside. No, he won't. Should this be the final lap?
Exactly. Should this be the final lap? No, he won't, but I imagine he's going to have a good crack at outbreaking them into turn 1 now.
Who's going to take the inside line? How many they want? Oh, it's so close at the inside, chopping each other's noses off as close as you like. That's experience for you there, learning your racecraft and just general safety limits.
And spatial awareness. Yeah, but you could see there, Furusato obviously confident to make that move, maybe lose a little bit on the straight to what he would have done, but knowing that he has the ability to outbrake them into turn 1.
I couldn't even focus on who actually got the lead then. It was a complete surprise to see Furusato up front. I was too busy focusing on front wheels potentially touching rear wheels, and thank goodness that they didn't.
Yeah, thank goodness that they didn't. There's some good skill there, managing to shuffle all 5 people around in about a metre of space.
Heart rate's going yet again. Thanks a lot, Asia Talent Cup. Already did the cardio workout today. Didn't need another one. Thank you very much. Wet towels, please, bringing to the commentary box. Hamada up the inside again. He knows he can't let Furusato get away.
Yeah, no, they absolutely can't. Just seem to have turned the wick up a little bit. Just a couple of bike lengths of daylight there. But I'm sure Hamada especially will be the man to respond very quickly. And yet you can already see just closing back in on the rear wheel of the number 15. And it's Asman once again now in 3rd. And these 3 guys do look very, very solid. You can see just a little bit more daylight to the other guys just trying to hang on to them.
And you wonder, given the lack of experience some of the other guys have, maybe a moment like that into turn 1 where it does get a bit too close for comfort, does that scare them a little bit? You still hear of that sort of thing of rookies in the Moto3 Senior World Championship battling with some more senior guys who are more comfortable racing at that sort of spatial distance, that even some of the rookies there get a bit intimidated by it.
Who was it that told us the other day of their experience when they'd done their first wild card in the championship? And then someone, it was Tom Luty, yes, it was indeed. And then someone came past him absolutely full pelt in his first wild card,
and he
realised that's how fast you can actually go. Yeah. I'm sure everyone, especially at these earlier stages in your career, would have had a moment like that where it's like, wow.
Yeah.
And but these guys at the moment doing a real good job to hang on to the 2 who duelled it out yesterday.
Well, and they just got a big whiff of how close you can really race.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it was still nice and clean as well. It's great action. It's what we love about the ATC. It's always such a close race, even if it's a duel or a big group fight or whatever it may be. It's pretty much guaranteed classic.
Absolutely. 3 laps to go now. Harrison Voigt just waving to Gumie just behind him there, perhaps to say apologies for a lap before whilst he's finally got his bearings back on him.
I like the word waving, like it's just like, hello.
Well, I think he did actually. He just waved his hand there, but he wasn't sort of waving it in an aggressive manner. We'll have to ask him later on, won't we? But still, the quintet thunders on, and Furusato and Hamada, just like yesterday, positions 1 and 2. Asman in 3rd behind him, but the other factors there as Voigt going up the inside of Asman, not quite, getting a bit squirrely on the brakes, but that's exactly what happened at turn 6 on lap 1 yesterday. Apart from that time, he managed to keep it upright. He
did indeed, so I'm sure that will actually strangely work in favour of his confidence. He's managed to have a little bit of a squiggle, as we say. Not sure it's a word that really exists in the outside world, but yeah, kept it upright. Looked pretty tempted to try and whack it up the inside, but now is not the time for that, not just yet.
Not just yet. Turn 10 and then full throttle as we come through turn 11 as well. Keep it as banked over as possible to keep it on the fatter part of the tyre to get as much drive as possible, of course. And then we're going into this triple right-hander now, and you could just see it is that middle part of the circuit where the front 3 do have a little bit of an advantage over both Voigt and Mie, but they never seem to get far enough away so that those 2 can't close up in the slipstream when we finally get onto the home straight again. Yeah,
absolutely. That slipstream is working wonders for those guys behind, but that's part of the tactics of the race as well. You know, it's good if they know that they just need to keep in touching distance and then try and close them in with that slipstream, then that's great for them. Don't have to take as many risks, and yeah, don't have to go over that line that Harrison Voigt just tiptoed towards there a minute ago.
On to the home straight we come again, and when we cross the finish line, it will be the penultimate lap of the second race here at round 1. And lap progression, blimey, they are just getting fairly quicker and quicker. Furusato's been on a great run lately, but not enough of a run to break the slipstream there, because Asman going up the inside, as is Hamada. Hamada wants to try and outbrake his compatriot. He's not going to do it this time, though. He's still so strong there, and they are all back together. Look at that time around. Mie sets the fastest lap of the race, the fastest lap we've seen all weekend, a 2:11.544. So you can be confident that these guys, there's no sort of drop off, there's no tiring or anything like that. They are willing to put it all on the line all the way until the final lap.
They really are. It looked like everyone was at their limit then through turn 1, and all with a few different strengths and weaknesses. But yeah, no changes at all that time around, so I think it's going to get pretty interesting, certainly next time through turn 1, which will be the last time at racing speed. But at the moment then, it's still Furusato in the hot seat, and I am a little bit surprised after he did lose out yesterday that he has again been so eager to be the guy in the lead for much of this race.
Yeah, quite right. Well, we've seen a couple of previews of what could happen at the final corner next time around, but I think this will be probably the most indicative one in terms of what doesn't happen, because will anybody be keeping cards close to their chest? Will they do a dummy run of what they could next time around? Who knows? How will they catch it up? Will we even see one of the top 2 or 3 finish? Will it be the man in 5th place out of the final corner who slipstreams a lot of them? We just don't know. That's the beauty of it, but it's 1.5 laps to go here in the Asia Talent Cup. Will it be experience or youthful exuberance who comes out on top here?
I think it's going to be a good one. I'm not quite as nervous as I would be if maybe we were thundering towards the final corner at Buriram, for example, which is pretty much designed to create drama. But I think it's going to get pretty interesting on the final lap here. With 5 of them as well, of course, there's always going to be so many more configurations of what could happen. With a duel, you know, it's just one-on-one. But these guys, everyone's been looking pretty racy at different times in this race, and everyone seems to have different parts of the track where they're maybe a little stronger than those in the group. So I can't call it.
This is the dress rehearsal then of that final corner. So Furusato maintaining massive corner speed there, but is it enough to keep him over the line? Keep an eye on what Hamada does. Does anybody break their slipstream a little bit? Do they jump out of the bubble to not show their hand? Maybe, because Furusato is the one who comes across the finish line that time. Maybe the others do want to show their hand. Voigt to the lead. Voigt to the lead. We have an Australian in the lead in the Asia Talent Cup. Oh, and it gets so close into turn 1. So Voigt's not. You guys are messing around working out who's going to get a better slipstream. I'm going to go past a lot of you. I want to lead this thing and really make amends for yesterday.
Absolutely. I thought when earlier on he seemed a little bit, I'm going to say it again, reticent to take over in the lead. I knew if it was the final lap, it's just one of those things that's like, well, I'm going to go to the limit and see what happens.
Furusato,
really
just
impressive
look at him.
stuff. Yeah, he's back again though, straight away.
Front. He does not want anybody else to lead this race. He is adamant. I am the man who's going to be leading this one. But Voigt, what a move that was in a turn 1. He can take something away from this race, whatever happens now. That was a brilliant piece of racecraft.
Yeah, it most definitely was. Oh, a little bit wide there from which of those guys was it?
Mie going a bit wide.
So he's just lost out to Asman then, but we've got Furusato then back in the lead, and it does look like Voigt's just having a little bit more trouble to hold on to him than Hamada has throughout the rest of this race. But yeah, that move from the Australian was absolutely great. And now I think we're going to get another one, maybe from the number 8, looking very, very close there.
Yeah, and I'm trying to guess, Fan, as Hamada goes up the inside of Voigt, who will be in the better position when they come and just start finish straight? Voigt just again, like a little bit of a twitch. He had such a twitchy front end there, and Asman capitalises on that through turn 11 now to the triple right-hander.
Absolutely side by side then, like I said, almost a touch there, almost, but yeah, just couldn't quite keep it in there. But now that we're absolutely 5 abreast still, who is going to take this race?
Well, final sector, here we go. Furusato in the lead. How many times have we said that throughout the last 24 hours or so? Voigt's looking up the inside of Hamada, but will that 3rd place be better for him? Who knows? It's all about this drive towards the final corner. Anybody going to make a move up the inside, or are they going to go for the slipstream? Hamada looks up the inside. No, he's decided not to make a move there. So it is about the run to the line, tucking it in as much as you possibly can, squeeze every muscle as much as you possibly can. Do not let any win come out. Hamada, is it going to get the win again? Furusato, big loser in that final corner. Who's going to get the win? It's Asman. Oh, Asman's done it. He shocked them all. The Malaysian's done it. Superb win for the 18-year-old from Hamada, and Voigt finishes on the podium. Furusato can take a big lesson away from here at Qatar. What a debut that was, but what a finale from Asman.
Absolutely, and we've still got these guys, look, still duking it out back in well, it's, who's that? Igarashi and the number 12 of Gibbons. So this has gone right to the end again.
Oh,
and Igarashi, he just missed out by pretty much the same margin yesterday, did the Japanese rider.
Oh, and look at this as well.
This
Blimey.
group as well, absolutely thundering onto the line.
The number 22 there. Oh, dear.
That's Hongo that just missed out. But yeah, some great racing through the field. But that win then for Asman. So he's now won 2 of the last 3 races, which doesn't sound like a bad start, does it?
Fran, the answer to the question, experience over youthful exuberance, well, experience wins.
Experience did win. This is, yeah, I was going to say, this is the first podium of the year with non-rookies, but obviously it's only the 2nd podium, so that stat's not particularly impressive. But it does show, absolutely, the 3 guys on the podium today in this race do have some previous experience. You can see what that's done to the standings as well. Asman, after looking like he was a little bit faded yesterday, just in that lonely 3rd place, is now only 4 points off the lead.
Absolutely superb. And Hamada, though, yes, has really capitalised on that. Here's the photo finish then. Excellent stuff. All fanned out across the line. Oh, Blimey, as they cut across each other.
That's very close.
Yeah. Well, that's another photo finish. We'll be getting that email through soon from Tissot.
That's great stuff. Asman then, obviously, yeah, with that advantage, he was perfectly aware that he'd won it. He did have a little bit of time in hand there by the line. But it's also interesting for Osato, he seemed to have been able to get that entry and exit at the final corner just right to still be ahead over the line, but that time around it just didn't pay off for him at all, did it?
No, not at all, but you live and you learn. This is his rookie season, his very second race, and he just misses out on the podium. He will learn for the next time. I'm sure he'll be talking with his crew, and that'll probably be the first thing that gets said back in the garage, to be honest with you, after, of course, a well done, because can't put him down too much, of course. That was a stunning debut performance from him.
Yeah, that's a really impressive rookie weekend for him. He's definitely been the standout rookie here. Gunmie has been really impressive as well. It's not easy to come into the competition and have two solid races as well. No big mistakes, no big dramas. But definitely for Osato, I'm sure will be a little bit frustrated after having taken pole and having missed out yesterday by, what was it, 0.032, I think?
Yes, good memory.
To have then just not quite made it on the podium in race 2. These guys are all so competitive. So, you know, like, it would annoy me. So I can't imagine when it's your profession. I'm sure he will be coming out swinging in round 2 to try and put that right.
Just saw Asman there getting congratulated by a lot of the Petronas squad, of course, being Malaysian. He'll have very good relationships with all them. Does the 18-year-old chuffed a bit? Well, technically then, 2 wins in 3 races for Asman.
It is indeed, yeah. So he's the man on form at the moment. Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what these guys have to say about the difference in pace between yesterday and today. But yeah, Asman definitely right back in that kind of title contenders group. After yesterday maybe looking like the Japanese riders just had the jump on him a little bit. But Harrison Voigt, I'm not sure if that's emotion for being on the podium, frustration for having not won the race. It's hard to tell what their expectations are going to be. He does have a little bit more experience, but that's definitely his best ATC result by a mile, the young Australian. He made a lot of progress last year, but I think his best was, well, by a mile, his best was the 4th last year at Sepang, but that was a highlight of the season too, after he'd started off, you know, battling for the points, then moving a little bit further forward, then got that 4th position and now on the podium. And I'm sure a lot of it will be relief after having crashed out yesterday as well.
I should think so, yes. That was a very difficult race to keep it up right there. You can see also Razlan Razali, the Sepang Racing, well, Sepang Circuit CEO and head of the Sepang Racing team.
Basically head of Malaysia.
Yeah, boss, Malaysia boss. There, go to see one of his close friends, technically one of his riders, you could probably say, I suppose.
Pretty cool about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in this paddock, of course, as well, Petronas Sepang Racing team principal. I did the thing where I said the 2 teams in the title, one of my bugbears. But getting some good congratulations then from someone who's been so instrumental in Malaysian motorcycle racing and really making it a big force to be reckoned with on the world stage. So I'm sure that's pretty good to have an ally like that with you and a good few words in Parc Ferme.
And of course, this is where we first see some of the potential Malaysian stars of the future as well, coming through the Asia Talent Cup. So heading behind, out of Parc Ferme and towards the podium will the lads. And we'll have a different...
I enjoyed that U-turn with the cameraman. Suddenly stopped.
And we'll be hearing, of course, the Malaysian national anthem above the podium here in Qatar. In the background there, the dulcet tones of Michael Hill, the circuit announcer this weekend. Final results then. Syarifudin Asman takes the win from Kanta Hamada. Harrison Voigt finishes off in 3rd place. Tayo Furusato 4th from Gunmie. Max Gibbons got the better of Igarashi, as you saw there. Rei Wakamatsu I should say, sorry, fell a little bit behind them as well. Mikhail Sali finishes out the top 9, but he himself in his own little group with Sharul Sharil, Carter Thompson and then Messiah Hongo. Just missed out at the end there, turning the straight into a bit of a corner come the checkered flag, finishing 12th, and Caleb Satiji just misses out, retired due to injury. What does that do to the championship then? Well, Kanta Hamada, oh dear, we're having a bit of a problem with that one as well. Well, Kanta Hamada is definitely leading the championship.
And as we saw on the graphic earlier, apologies for that, obviously not quite got to see that. But yeah, I think it's Asman in second now, 4 points behind. Yes. I'd imagine it must be Furusato there in third, although my maths hasn't been quite quick enough to immediately tell you what the gap might be.
Let's just hope for the best. Well,
and we know that Harrison Voigt will have moved up significantly from his position yesterday.
Absolutely. There is the podium of the QMB Grand Prix of Qatar, and as we mentioned yesterday, you never forget any sort of win where you stand on top of a Grand Prix podium, or even your first podium. Harrison Voigt. So maybe it was actually just emotion of relief and exhilaration.
Yeah, good word.
Maybe.
Don't be reticent. Be proud.
Hamada steps up into the podium. Not quite the place that he was yesterday, but take nothing away from your winner, the 18-year-old Syarifudin Azman, atop a Grand Prix podium in the Asia Talent Cup.
For the second time?
Yes. Not on home soil. It will feel probably just as sweet, though, I imagine. There is the third place trophy, presented by 2009 250cc world champion Hiroshi Oyama, potentially, possibly, maybe, a future team boss to one of these lucky devils. And there is Azman raising that trophy high.
You can see Hamada definitely not quite as happy as yesterday.
No.
Like I said, these guys super competitive, but a great race once again.
Congratulations.
Certainly one of the longer national anthems, but certainly a very, very good one at that too. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Congratulations, Syarifudin Azman, for your win today. Certainly puts him towards the driving seat, or, well, just in the passenger seat, in fact, of the overall championship
Is that
standings.
what we call second overall at the moment? The passenger seat.
Well, I guess, yes, here we are. We're going to get a look at some highlights. Hurrah! Here they are. The lights went out, and it was another superb start from Furusato on the run down to turn one. Got a bit hectic straight from the get-go. Hamada going around the outside of Harrison Voigt, but not quite maintaining that lead in second place there, but he did to turn two and towards turn three.
He did indeed, and Harrison Voigt, as you can see, was more in the mix today. Yesterday was a tougher start to the race for the Australian, but he was well up there from the off, and there was some really good battles all the way throughout the field. That was a little bit wide there. I think it's Hongo. I said it was someone with a 20. Yeah, I think it was Hongo in that incident then that headed a little bit over track limits. But this group at the front, it was a battle of 5 today in race 2.
Yes, quite. It was quite we knew after a few laps that it would be a battle of 5 rather than just a duel between Furusato and Hamada. A great entertainment throughout and so many moves all around, just like yesterday.
Absolutely. Now I can't get 5 go racing out of my head. It's a very British cultural reference, that. But it was absolutely great stuff once again. Furusato and Hamada, big players in this incredible race too, but Voigt as well, and Azman, of course, just hanging back almost at times, and then when it counted, the Malaysian really did strike back.
We did think the Australian was maybe going to get the jump of everybody with this move on the final lap, down towards turn one, taking the lead there. It was an absolutely sensational move from the Australian, but it did not maintain it for too long, because Furusato, as stubborn as ever, fought straight back towards the lead. But then it started building up towards that final sector and final turn. Who would get the run out of that final corner onto the start and finish straight? Unfortunately for Furusato, it was not him. The man who outfoxed them all was Asman, fourth in your picture there, coming across the line to take the victory in sensational style. This is the Asia Talent Cup. The road to MotoGP starts right here. These are the stars of the future, providing such great value for money. We'll see you next time.